how's it going? I'm going to try and show you a video today that probably is not going to make it as a full build, but I just wanted to schizo ramble because it is 4 a.m. night before league start and I'm up cooking some absolute maybe good, maybe terrible. Alright, let's just get into it. So with the changes, you look at Harbinger. They had an interesting thing on them last patch where debuffs on you expire faster, but it was only around 30%. It's up to 100% this patch. That's the exact same as a warp timepiece. And if you know anything about warp timepiece, you know that Beacon of Madness, there's a specific pair of boots that go really well with it. And I think actually hitting these breakpoints is not that hard this league. So I do want to give a big shout out on this for these three individuals. We got Snoozers, Saints Exile. I was following a lot on their footsteps when I was putting this together, but the essential idea of the build is this. Beacon of Madness is going to give you two things that are really valuable. One, it's going to give you all damage inflicts poison. This is all damage can inflict poison and all damage will inflict poison. So what that means is no original sin. You can inflict poison with anything. My immediate thought, Poison Spark, and it's going to give you the explosions from Harbinger as well, or what was their name? Cultist. Basically gives you Cultist explosions. If you get the Forbidden Flesh and Flame, you have 90% chance to explode, and these are chaining explosions that can poison. This is insane clear if you get this up and running, and I'm thinking I can mitigate it. So what does Embrace Madness do? Basically, Embrace Madness is going to give you a bunch of really terrible debuffs. Rodent Touch, Paralyzing Touch, all these things. And these are just going to keep stacking. You get one every 2 seconds, but they only stack up to 10 times. They last for 20 seconds. So if you get to certain breakpoints, so for example, right here, we got 150% and 233. This build actually can get to 235 on the high end, which is the amount you actually need to be at for the server tech. But early on, you would have to be at the 152, which means you're going to have to tank around 3 of each debuff at any given time, which still is not bad for how much these boots are giving you. But why would I play Harbinger? So first, it's being able to use these boots. Second idea is Val Haste is really good, and Val Haste is permanent on this class, because if you go and you look at this node, it doesn't just say debuffs on you expire slower or expire faster. We've got buffs expire slower, which is broken because this applies to Val skills. If you go and you look at, I believe it was Dreamcore's video, he was talking about infinite Val uptime, and this build easily achieves infinite Val skill uptime. So if you look in my notes section, we've got basically a 46-second Val haste with a 28-second soul recovery time. So you get 18 seconds to get souls again before it wears off. That's an insane amount. Obviously, we've got the breakpoints here. Next, we've got all the ways you can get the percent. Unfortunately, you do have to run Temporal Rift. There's the idea of maybe using a Stasis Prism later for 100% reduced duration, but at least for now, you're going to have a 23% plus in Ashes. It's rough getting this. But if you get this, this math is probably wrong, the 3 max on each type, because the previous breakpoint I was able to hit in League, because we can't actually test this right now. We can't actually hit these numbers, as far as I'm aware, without the Ascendancy. The one I hit was at 3 of each type. So this might go down to 2 or even 1. So that's very good for us. We've got that. We've got that. What else we have? We have Immortal Call Up Time. We're stacking a lot of duration on this build, and that combined with the fact that we just have buff duration, like flat buff duration, we're getting almost 77% uptime on Immortal Call. So if you look at the max hits on the left side, this is actually without Immortal Call. But if you have Immortal Call up 77% of the time, it's going to look a little bit different. You're going to see your max hit goes up to a lot higher. And I think Immortal Call is actually going to help carry this build's defenses in a lot of way, even though it's not perfect. But we're going to use Doppelganger guys to try and mitigate that. The main thing that I'm looking into for this build is basically the idea is we have permanent Val Haste. We've got these breakpoints so that we're able to utilize these ridiculous boots. Then because of that, we're able to use one of the new Ascendancies, which I'll get into in a second. And then because of the buff duration, Immortal Call is longer, Val Haste is longer, and Soul Ascension is longer. So you're going to be keeping up Soul Ascension stacks, maybe even throughout a map, which is something I haven't been able to do on any other build, and it's one of the really bad feeling parts of Spark a lot of the time. So if you look at the Ascensions we picked, there's a slight problem with this Ascendancy, and GGG decided to nerf the class at the last second for literally no reason. So we got this node, the actual one we want, move back, and we gotta take this one in the middle. I have no clue how to fit channeling on this build. Listen, if you can do it, you can maybe do it with a weapon swap and like do some wither, just channel the wither skill to get this, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a dead Ascendancy. This is so good in my opinion, it warrants it. Third one, I looked into doing this one. This one gives you more energy shield. Could be the right choice. Otherwise, you can go for Harbinger of Time. It's basically just going to give you 10% action speed, which is a little bit better than... I believe it's a little bit better than the Ranger's skill. It's a little bit better than Tailwind. I just have it written down the modifiers because it's not actually letting me tick it in PoE. But the Ascension I was talking about is actually this one. So You're the Crazy One actually gives you Embrace Madness. We don't need that, we already have it. But we're going to inflict Mania on nearby enemies every second. We're going to give them 2% reduced action speed, 10% reduced life and energy shield recovery rate, and 4% increased damage taken. The life and recovery rate is okay. It's whatever. It's actually pretty decent for a poison build to have less life recovery rate on nearby enemies. But reduced action speed and increased damage taken, these are incredible. The defensive layers on reduced action speed plus the temporal chains you're already going to get. And then we've got increased damage taken times 15 with 4%. That is a lot of damage. Like if you see, we're getting like 37% on the max end. So that's good. So problems with this class. Where do we start? So the issue is I'm trying to basically mix together bootlegs from two different classes. Most of the solutions found for this build have been through the eyes of Pathfinder, and the issue with Pathfinder is you kind of just get infinite flasks. We don't get the luxury of infinite flasks, so we kind of got to fix it with these nodes. We got flask charges gained over here, we got flask charges gained over here. There's more over here you can take if you absolutely need them, and all that's basically just to sustain the fact that we have Replica Sorrow the Divine for Eldritch Battery, because it is literally in the worst section of the tree if we want to get to it. That's just to try and sustain our mana costs with all the auras we're running. Obviously, we've got Progenesis Tick. I can take that off. Still decent max hits. Nothing incredible, but like pretty good. Let me need to tick off a lot of these because obviously you're gonna have that open all the time. Maybe not have that open all the time. These you should relatively have open all the time with, especially with the flask sustain we have built in. So this one's very important. You want increased duration on the non-curse aura skills to help with the Val Haste duration. Another important thing is you really want to get a Overwhelming Malice large cluster. There's the option to go for Sin's Rebirth, the unique flask. Let me see if I can pull it up. We got Sin's Rebirth. That's just going to give you Unholy Might during the effect. We don't care about the physical damage part of it. We just care about the fact that it's giving us Wither. That's one of the things we're having problems with, where we move from Pathfinder, and we've got a couple of problems we want to solve. One, we don't have Wither. Unholy Might solves that. We got Wither. So as long as we crit one time, which we've got 7.8%, we got a lot of sparks flying around, we're gonna keep Unholy Might up. We're gonna have Wither. Spark's gonna hit a bunch, it's gonna proc the Wither stacks. Next, we need Poison Prolif. We do not have direct Poison Prolif. We could actually get it from Foulborn the Embalmer this league, which actually has the built-in Pathfinder node to it, but we really want Soul Sanction, so I think it's good enough with the 40% explode to just Prolif that way, but you can swap it out if you absolutely need to, and especially before you get Soul Sanction, it might be a good idea. The last thing is obviously the Flask Sustain. We've got the Flask Sustain from this, and so we've got all the Pathfinder stuff covered. We've also got the benefits of basically playing a full conversion build without a conversion build, because like I said, Beacon means we don't need to get Poison Chance, and we don't need to convert our lightning damage to Chaos. So that means no Original Sin, lowers the budget a lot, and it also means no messing around with Lycia Bloodline. It allows us to actually use the other bloodline we want to use. So it's mostly standard Poison Spark from that point. We've got Widow Hail with a bow quiver. The bow quiver setup is basically just life, projectiles, pierce, movement speed, projectile speed. You've seen all of this before. The poison on hit is arguable. The percent damage with poison is still good, but you wouldn't need poison on hit with this setup. So there might be a way to craft a quiver that's actually more suited for this build, actually. The other slots are basically just going to be evasion, energy shield, hybrid bases. We're looking for suppress. We got mana reservation on the helmet as much as we can. Doppelganger guys, you're just going to stay sane forever. If you don't know, it goes between sane and insane. You can click insane and get a lot of crit chance. We don't care about crit. We're basically just using it for the less physical and cast damage taken while sane. Lets us actually tank when Immortal calls down. Very good. I would very heavily recommend this. Also, regenerate 10% of life over 1 second when hit. Absolutely incredible regen. We've got Soul Ascension. This is an arguable and questionable part of the build. The real thing is, it's really hard to fit in gems on this build. Temporal Chains can actually fit in where Righteous Fire of Arcane Devotion is. You can actually fit in Temporal Chains just self-cast here. The real thing is you really want Temporal Chains on hit. It feels a lot better. I can't figure out how to fit this into the build yet, but you really want it for the... It's a lot of cast rate. You're probably going to need a Ruby Flask that has high effect, and that might require a Mage Blood setup. I haven't looked into the absolute endgame of this build yet, but it's a lot of stuff you got to finagle, and that's why I'm saying don't trust this as like a league starter. Trust this as like an idea bank, where if someone wants to take this and try to make it work, I might try to make it work later this league when I have some currency, but I definitely think this is the right play. I just don't know exactly how to fit it. Same thing with Temporal Chains. I mean, you can get it on Soul Ascension as a corrupt. The real problem with that is Soul Ascension is expensive enough. Temporal Chain, Soul Ascension, this is like, we're talking like 80 divines on these things. Not good. The other one is actually going to be Witchfire Brew. You're actually getting Despair just from this. Now, I think this is actually a good solution. You may not agree. You may think you want Despair on hit. I say go find a place to put Despair in this build. You could self-cast it with a Temporal Chains on hit gloves. You could equip Asenap's Gentle Touch instead of the Beacon of Madness. Then you're going to get some really not good explosions, probably in your other explosions, but at least you'll get the Temp Chains. And then you can self-cast Despair. But you really need Despair on this build because you're not getting the luxury of Original Sin where everything's 0 cast resist. Obviously, later you can switch into Original Sin and then you could mitigate that problem. But obviously, if you have the money for Original Sin, you probably don't need this setup. So the Ashes of the Stars, as said, very annoying part of the build, but the Temporal Rift doesn't give us enough to hit this final breakpoint unless we've got the Ashes and the 23% quality and everything's basically perfect. As said before, there is the Armor Stasis Prison that gives you just debuffs 90% faster. This solves everything. You can take stuff out of your tree, you can take stuff out of your gear, you could even drop the entirety of Temporal Rift, but Temporal Rift is free with this, so I wouldn't. But this is probably your endgame piece, but the reason I'm not putting in the PoB is because Stasis Prison, if you don't know, is one of the rarest items in the entire game. It is not realistic to get anytime soon. Maybe you won't even drop for the first week and a half. It basically only comes from 5 ways, and the drop rate is supposed to be absolutely horrible. But definitely an endgame option. If you want to hit that beforehand, you're probably going to need this. One other thing is, when you switch into Stasis Prison, your amount of debuff expiry might be enough that you can just drop Ashes straight up. And if you can drop Ashes straight up, you can go for any kind of like Replica Dragon Fangs or anything that's just going to have like +3 to level of Spark, +3 to level of your gems. It's going to give you a lot of damage. So if you go to this and you go for Spark, you see that you're getting like 20% damage just from that. It's very big. So if you find that the buffs or the debuffs from Beacon aren't that bad, you can actually chill with this amount. What I would say is just listen, don't deal with the hassle of Ashes, Temporal Rift, and all this. Just drop this. Go for the lower end version, like 152%, and then run like a +3, +2 amulet. You'll be fine. What else to talk about? Basically stole these rings 1-to-1 from these guys. We got Fate Loop. This is just... You're going to run into stat problems You need strength and you need dex, and you're not getting a lot of it. You can get it from your rings. You can also get it from your tree a little bit. I don't think it's that big of a problem. It's not like other builds where it's going to like collapse under the weight of all the stats you need, but it's definitely a struggle. It's not as much of a struggle if you're not running Tides of Time. I haven't tested the build with Tides of Time yet. The thing is, from my testing so far, it has been perfectly fine sustaining without Tides of Time. So if you don't need Tides of Time, you just equip a belt like this, put some strength on it, and you'll be fine. The flasks, I'm just going for eventually Progenesis, obviously, but Replica Sorrow solves our mana, Witchfire Brew solves our curse, Bismuth Flask with all of our flask sustain is just going to give us a lot of resists to play with, especially with all of the minus resists that might get rolled on maps this league. We've got the Silver Flask, obviously just gives us more attack speed, or, well, more cast speed in this case. And then, instead of it Progenesis, you can just run a normal Amethyst Flask. I still want to be running with, like we're running with, like, 14% cast res. It's nice to run with, like, a little bit more. But you could swap this out for a Ruby Flask and try to do shenanigans with Righteous Fire. We got some unethical jewels a little bit. We got Light of Meaning. Light of Meaning is going to be expensive with the lightning damage. It's just probably going to be. It just gives you a lot of damage. A lot of damage. So you might want to supplement it with your tree. Go for some more lightning nodes up to the top. You go for more lightning nodes up in the top. You go for like some of these for some like increased lightning damage and cast speed, because this is giving you a lot of damage, but a lot of that is coming from a natural instinct as well. This is just a setup you're going to want to run lightly. Obviously, it's going to give you a lot of damage. Take it off, you lose 6 million damage. It's good. Not necessary, I don't think, to play, but definitely good. The other jewels, basically standard. You want damaging elements, deal damage faster, DOT multi, max life, damage with poison. That's about it. Other than that, later on you can look into 2% max fire res to try and get to a melding setup, where you have melding of the flesh and you have all your resists set up. I would say that's more of a mage blood setup, but the question with this build is obviously going to be, if you're running like 3 unique flasks, do you even want a mage blood for the last 2? I don't know. If you can figure out a way to solve for the Witchfire Brew, I think it's fair to drop Progenesis for a Mage Blood plus Replica Sorrow setup. Other than that, the large clusters is that, and on this side I have some Elemental Damage Leech's Life from Doriani's Lesson. You can get this in other places. You can get it from the Abzeri Flask as well, but I would say this is just the easiest way to do it. Later on, you can switch into a 12 passive cluster, and the 12 passive clusters are going to have like the 3% increased attack and cast speed. Here, I can actually just show you. Do I have it? I might not have it. Okay, basically, it's just going to be a 12 passive with 3% cast speed, 35% increased effect of small notables, and then whatever things you need, resists, stats, and that will solve for your stats, that'll solve for your resists, that'll solve all of these issues, but those are expensive, so I didn't want to put them in this PoB, even though I put some expensive stuff already in this PoB. Like I said, this is not a league starter. Do not follow this as a league starter, okay? Gems, we've got Spark, Deadly Elements, Unbound, Spell Echo, Focus, Energy Leech. Bunch of very normal stuff, very questionable at the end. You put Energy Leech in the build? Probably not. I tried this out. The real answer is you probably take out Energy Leech and you just go like Awakened, Cast, or added lightning damage. Cruelty also works. You'll have to test to see which one's better. As far as I can tell, added lightning damage is better just because on this setup we're not converting to Chaos. And so the added lightning is actually still good, especially because we're missing a lot of plus levels to gems, which is very important for scaling. We're really needing that +1. For our auras, we've got Malevolence for the damage, Arctic Armor for tank and freeze immune. Purity of Elements just makes us immune to all ailments, so arguably you could take off Arctic Armor, but I think the less physical and less fire damage while stationary is really good. Flesh and Stones just can make anyone near us do 20% less damage, and Petrified Blood is a whole video on its own, but just know that Petrified Blood is just going to help you tank a lot on this setup because you're life-based. You're going to have a life flask. You're not going to have the luxury of a Pathfinder where it's going to keep healing you infinitely, but you're going to have Life Flask and you're going to have Petrified Blood. So should be fairly tanky. Fairly. I say fairly because we still cannot tank Shaper Slam, 14k Fizzmax hit. If you have a Mortal Call-Up, you can absolutely tank Shaper Slam. If you set up this build in a different way, where you have something like Molten Shell, that's probably never going down, you can probably always tank Shaper Slam. Depends on what content you're doing, obviously. Are there Shaper Slams all the time? Probably not. I think Elemental Max hits more important. 39k, decent. I think we can get this later to like 80k. We've obviously got the Val Haste set up. Val Haste, more duration, that's it. That's all you need. That and this thing on the tree, and you will have infinite Val Haste. Val Haste is giving you unbelievable amounts of movement speed and cast speed. Really good. Other options, we've got Val Clarity. This solves all of your mana issues. If you wanted to use Val Clarity on this build, I would actually be very in support of it, because if you had this, your skills cost no mana, which means you can then drop Sorrow of the Divine, which means you then don't need any of this Flask setup. You can drop like a ton of stuff. I really like the movement speed from Val Haste, so I think it's pretty good, but I would say Val Clarity is probably the next best option. You can also go Val Grace for tankiness, but I don't think it's worth it on this setup. Then we've got... Oh, and also, don't worry about Temporal Rift. Just, you use it for the debuffs expiring. Don't use it for anything else. We've got Automation, Immortal Call, more duration, Enhance. Pretty much just trying to get as much Immortal Call duration as we can. As much uptime as we can. As I said before, we've got, like, really good uptime on this thing. We've got, like, 77%. Which I can go check in the config as well, just so you don't think I'm making it up. Where's the... I'll link this POB. Oh my god, I'm actually blind. Wait, am I blind? Where is this? Am I insane? I'm already on it. I'm right. Okay, cut that. Automate, active skill automate. I don't know. This is not pulling up correct. Oh my god, there we go. Because it wasn't active. And there you go, 77%, right? 77% uptime. You see, we're very tanky with this up. We are very tanky with Immortal Call up. Sometimes it's not up. That's kind of the problem with this build. Frostblink and Wintry Blast is going to scale our movement speed with our... basically our cast speed. Arguably, we have enough haste. We have haste, we have 30% movement speed on the boots. We've arguably got enough movement speed where Frostblink and Wintry Blast isn't worth it. If you wanted to, I would be fully in support of just swapping to like normal Frostblink and just walking around. It's up to you. Really depends on what you want to do. If you do this, faster casting with it, pretty much necessary, or Spell Echo, depends on what you prefer. Frost Shield's just going to be really, really giving us a lot of tankiness on single target. If you look at like Frost Shield stages, and you have like 2 stages, this is already adding like a lot to our max hits. Like you see, it's hitting 65k on the 5 stages. Obviously, it's not going to be up all the time, but that's a very big security layer when you're on a single target. Also, this is on quality. It can get even better. Righteous Fire of Arcane Devotion, as said before, more cast speed. Very good. What's not good, does a lot of fire damage. You basically need to get 85% plus max fire res to make this work. I haven't been able to figure it out on this setup, and so I'm just going to untick this so that I'm not lying to you about how I can set this up. I have no clue how you fit this in, other than to basically do a full Mage Blood setup or to get Flask sustained to the point where you actually have it up all the time, which is maybe a little bit hard. Here's our ridiculous amount of added skills. Just unbelievable amounts of stuff. And yeah, as far as I can tell, that's basically it for it. I've got the pros and cons listed right down here, basically. I think that Beacon of Madness is really strong. I think that basically having full converted Spark without having to convert it and guaranteed prolifing Occultist explosions basically are really good. I think later on, I think later Occultist Jewels for 90% is going to be really, really broken for clear. If you have 90% explode, it's probably excessive, but it's really cool. Soul Sanction benefits from buff expiration rate. Like I said, usually these buffs fall off really quick. You only have them on bosses pretty much. these do not fall off. They take a while to fall off. If they work the way I think they do with the buff expiration rate. As far as the wiki says, they should, and if they do, they will take a long time to fall off, and you will basically have a lot more Soul Ascension uptime. Permanent Val Haste, it's permanent. It is just permanent. As long as the math works out, it's permanent. It should have been permanent last time, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's even more permanent this time because of, I forgot to mention, but this Rune Graft of the Warp, ridiculously important. Ridiculously important. It's giving you 30% on your debuffs. It's also giving you the other 30% on your buffs expire. Very, very, very important. It shouldn't be that expensive. You only have one. I don't know who else runs it, so yeah, it should be fine. Then we've got basically crit immune. The poison master over here, enemies poisoned by you can't deal crits. It is not really showing up in PoE how big this is, but this is very big. Because when your max hits are 39k, but an enemy literally cannot hit you with a crit as long as it's been poisoned by you, which means it's just been hit by you. I don't know if you played Spark, it's going to hit every single thing that's on the screen, so everything that's on the screen cannot hit you with a crit. That's going to make these max hits seem a lot better than they are. Permanent temp chains, if you have the temp chains on hit, it's basically the same deal with Spark. You're going to have everything temp chained and everything slowed. On top of that, you're also going to have everything slowly losing action speed from You're the Crazy One. So you've got double slowing for everything. Permanent temp chains and slowing. Better clusters are available for endgame, like I said. Cast speed, lightning damage, helps with the resistances. This thing scales. This thing will scale. Arguably, will it scale worse than it would in the normal league? Maybe. I don't know if the endgame setup with Beacon of Madness is going to be as good as the early game setup, just because once you get into the endgame where you can actually have Original Sin, I think Original Sin is probably going to beat out the boots, but losing to Original Sin is no sweat off my back. We've got cons. I have no clue how to start this build. Like I said, this is not a league starter. You kind of need the quality stacking for Temporal Rift. You need Ashes, you need 23 quality. If you need that 235% breakpoint for the build to feel good, it's going to be rough. If you don't, arguably, it's not that bad. If you don't need that 235% breakpoint, arguably all you're really going to need to start the build are the boots. As long as you have the boots, you're able to poison, and then you can fit the tree around that. Will it be the best league starter? No. Will it be a good league? No. No, it will not. But if you want to force it, you need those boots. If you don't have the boots, you can't do it. Well, I mean, like, you can, but like it would be a whole different setup with the Blue Nightmare and a lot. Get the boots. Soul Sanction. No, I'm talking about the cons. Mortal Call, like I said, really good uptime, 77%. You can get it higher. I don't think it's worthwhile to get it to like 84%. You have to sacrifice a lot on the build. But you're at risk of one-shotting when it's down. Now, what I would say is just your Spark build, you shouldn't be getting hit that much. And if you do get hit that much, you have a lot of mitigation layers to try and prevent people from hitting you just from them being slow. And then you have a lot of reductions once they actually do hit you. But you don't have a lot of life. So arguably you could get your max life higher and try to basically get around this risk of one-shots. Another option is just taking the build in a different direction and going... instead of a Mortal Call, you could go Molten Shell, and there's the argument that maybe Permanent Val Molten Shell would be better, but that would require a big change up to the tree. Harbinger focus is absolutely useless. Thank you for the nerf for literally no reason. No one played this class last league. No one. And then they buffed it to make it playable, and then for some reason threw this in the middle. Now, I kept looking at cooldown recovery rate to think that maybe because of this being a thing while you're channeling, that this could be used for a cast on crit setup with the cooldown recovery rate and the cast on crit cyclone. But the issue with that is the 4 points you're taking here means you wouldn't be able to take the entire point I was playing this, which is You're the Crazy One. If I can't take You're the Crazy One, there's no point to me using the boots. And if there's no point to me using the boots, then there's no point to me using this. And if there's no point to me using this, then why am I playing Harbinger? And so I don't think I can go for this in good conscience. Other than that, though, You can't get around the fact you just have to take this Harbinger focus. It sucks. It's really good if you can get it to proc. So I would say if you can find out a way to like weapon, I don't even know, like weapon swap, maybe weapon swap, and then you just use the wither skill to channel in front of you on the boss to just get the wither stacks immediately, get the Harbinger to proc on you, and because of the buff duration, you'll be up for the whole thing. That would make you immune to stun, ailments, and curses. It's a lot of real good stuff. But you got to figure out some way to channel. And I haven't been able to figure out a way to channel on this. The other option is just switch this entire build to a lightning tendrils build, but I'm not doing that. Other than that, mana use is tight. Replica Sorrow setup, I think it works. It's a little iffy. The mana stuff is going to be something you have to work around and look into. You might need to use Inspiration support. You might need to use some leeches. Replica Sorrow the Divine might not be available. You might need to swap out an aura or two or insert Clarity. Just, if you know what you're doing, you could probably get around it. It's just the mana costs are a little bit rough, especially because you're stacking up cast speed. And so you're going to be casting a lot. And so you have to get to a point where you're able to cast a lot, but also regen a lot. One other thing, I mean, this is basically Pathfinder Poison Spark. It's got fun tech for the boots. I think it's cool. It's maybe not be a unique enough build for Phrecia. There are other builds that like just can't exist in the normal game. I think this is a cool build that can't exist in the normal game, but the ways that it can't exist are found in other places, right? Like you can get explosions on Occultist. You can get the poison on converting it with the Blue Nightmare. Like you can do stuff similar to this in the base game. It's just, I think the way that this build works is really cool if you can get it to work. Gems are tight. Like I said, gems are very tight, mainly because of our forcing in of the Immortal Call setup. If you dropped Immortal Call from this build and you figure out a way to make it work without it, you're probably fine on these. One other thing is if you drop Frostblink of Wintry Blast, that means you don't need faster casting, so you have another free slot. Same thing with Rage's Fire, but I would say Rage's Fire Arcane Devotion is probably something you want to go for. Okay, that's a lot of words. That's a lot of talking. It's okay. But what you want to see is if it actually works. Let me just make sure. Yeah, okay, we're still going. Here's it working, okay? Not very well, but this is just like an idea of it working, okay? So, got our auras up. Activate Embrace Madness. See in the top left, we're going to get all of these, you're gaining bad things, right? So, less flash charges, reduce effect, not good. This thing, not good. That thing, not good. Okay, but they're disappearing. So you're getting a random one. But the issue with this is you're getting a random one, and if it hits the same one, it refreshes it. But if it doesn't hit the same one, it doesn't refresh it. So you'll see sometimes we'll stack to like a 6. Sometimes we'll stack to like 1. Sometimes we'll stack to 2. It's very iffy, but I don't think I've ever seen it go above 6. Obviously, if you get the higher breakpoint later on, you can get it better. But we got Warp Timepiece. This is just simulating the Ascendancy. We've got Betrayal Sting. This is another thing that I would like to fit into the build for chance for double poison. Don't know if I'll be able to. And basically, I just want to show you that the idea behind this as a build is the fact that this is really cool. Now, is this high damage? Absolutely not. Is this a setup that's even worth mentioning? Pretty much no. This is like not a lot of insane stuff that I've equipped on this character. I have absolutely no rare jewels giving me extra damage on my poisons. My gems are unleveled. I'm running with the Val Haste not actually at full capacity. I have way too many of these buffs. I actually don't have any Ascendancy spec. Not even the Delirious one. So enemies are going to be taking 40% more damage. I'm missing 2,000 health. And as you can see, I'm basically just running through playing Poison Spark, except I have Occultist Explosions with me. Okay. That's all I got for you. I don't know if this is going to be a good build. I just know that this is something that I've wanted to do for a while, and seeing as Phrecia is only for a little bit, I feel like Embrace Madness is the play with the debuff on Harbinger. I will not be league starting this. Do not league start this. This is a scuffed build by a scuffed build creator. I'm just trying to point out that you can combine all these things, and Harbinger is not as bad as people think it is. Go out and make builds on Harbinger. It's awesome. Okay, have a good day.